Hello and welcome to the Blackout podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people who do amazing things. I'm really excited for this one. Joel Kelly of Kelford Inc. Thanks for coming to the podcast today.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
I remember, I'm one of the, people don't understand how amazing LinkedIn is.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, okay, they can stay on Instagram and Facebook, but Jules, your writings and your videos are what makes LinkedIn cool for me. So I said, no, really. So I remember seeing your
and
post.
We're done. That's
I remember seeing your video and then signed up for the newsletter right away. So let's start with, before we get to Kelford Inc, let's start with the newsletter.
Sure.
Why did you decide to do a daily newsletter? First, that's crazy.
It does seem crazy. Yeah, I got to go back to why I started the newsletter in the first place was it was late in 2020, big year. A lot of stuff happened.
Yes.
A lot of people put people in a lot of different, mental spaces, and certainly me as well. And near the end of 2020, I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of thoughts on my head. I'd been doing a lot of thinking that year, and I was sending these long emails to my brother of here's an idea about marketing that I've had, or here's an idea about content, or just something that I've been reading. And I was sending him these emails, and eventually he was like, maybe you should publish these, which was a little you don't have to send these to me anymore. So that gave me the idea. At the end of 2020, I started the newsletter, and that was just weekly. And I was spending anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a week working on these big kind of long essays. And that was fun. That I did that for a little while. And there's a guy named Jonathan Stark who has a podcast called Ditching Hourly. He wrote this book called Hourly Billing is Nuts. Where his whole idea is that for creative entrepreneurs or people in service professions or solo entrepreneurs, you need to get out of billing by the hour. And one of the ways he promotes his business is with his daily newsletter. And so I subscribe to that. And you start getting in your head that, wait, I really like this guy's daily newsletter. This isn't that crazy once you get the idea that actually having something that takes about a minute to read every day that helps put your brain in that mindset is super valuable. And I figured if there's a dozen people out there who would feel the same way about my newsletter, that's enough. Luckily, it's a few dozen, up into the hundreds on the weekly newsletter. But it's one of those things that the doing of it is useful to me even if no one read it.
Right.
Because it forces me to think about it every day. Every newsletter I write, every video I do on LinkedIn, I always start with the premise of how does this help me even if no one even saw it.
Right.
So that's the thing that kind of scales back the crazy a little bit is that, publishing it's a bonus. Writing it is the whole point.
It's while you're doing it, you are getting so much positive, pleasure, learning, all that in the process. And then if all these people read it, that's just the icing on the cake.
Totally. And then, you get into a sales conversation or you're talking to a potential client and they ask about what's your opinion about XYZ thing. It's I don't have to come up with my idea in that moment. I have to remember what I wrote about it probably 10 times over the last 5 years. So that's why it becomes, it makes you better in every other scenario to have practiced what you're talking about. One of the ideas I like is marketing business, but especially marketing, is a type of performance. And it's how do you get better at performance? You practice. But you see so many people in marketing I'm so nervous about the sales conversation. I'm so nervous about getting on this Zoom call. I'm so nervous about meeting this person. I think you're nervous because you haven't practiced.
Right.
You're going to have some sort of performance anxiety about this. The way to get over that is to practice, is to have tried, so that every conversation, you've done it a million times.
I've done it so many times. Okay, so we have the newsletter and the videos.
Yeah.
When did you decide to do those?
When did I decide to do the videos? I think it was this summer of 2024. I guess it goes back a few months before that. I had written this newsletter called Letting Go of LinkedIn. And it was about how I was done with LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Engagement was in the toilet. I was getting no impressions on my posts. Everything that I was seeing on LinkedIn was the same kind of hustle culture stuff that I had gotten tired of. So I wrote a whole newsletter justifying why I was not going to be on LinkedIn anymore. And even more than that, why you shouldn't be. I did not publish it.
Okay,
Because I was staring at it, like, hovering over the publish button, going, like, this isn't right. Like, I can't just give up this publicly, and I can't give up as advice until I know I've really tried.
Right.
And there were things that I hadn't tried yet. What wasn't working on LinkedIn was all the same stuff I'd been doing before. But I didn't know if something new might be the secret. So in July, I started doing what I consider just to be better content, like, more personal stuff that the algorithm rewards a bit, selfies, photos of yourself kind of in action, doing that with pairing it with posts that were a little bit more open, a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more interesting. And then I started to see, like, not just the engagement numbers go up, but getting interesting DMs from people, having more conversations. And then the video, what set that off in my head was, I did one. I think it was about some AI topic that had happened recently, and it just exploded. It got one of my first videos got like 500,000 impressions, which, for me, coming from if I got 100, I was thrilled. So that the algorithm picked that up. I got lots of interesting conversations. I started hearing from people who are seeing them, and then that motivation just kicked in of it wasn't fun to do just regular LinkedIn posting. It was fun to do the videos.
Oh.
And people were watching them. That just created this feedback loop.
Okay. So I put the cart before the horse. Let's go back. What is Kelford Inc?
Kelford Inc. is a marketing, small boutique marketing firm I do with my wife and partner, Leah Sanford. And what we do is we show entrepreneurs the way to always knowing what to say. The problem that when people come to us or when they think they need marketing, so often it's not some abstract, I need a marketing strategy, or I need a plan, or I need this campaign launched. What people end up saying they need is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say on LinkedIn. I don't know what to say on my blog or newsletter. I don't know what to say. Increasingly, when we work with companies like Deep Tech or Ocean Sciences, they say, I don't know what to say at this trade show when someone comes up to my booth.
Because especially with things like that, it's so sciencey.
Totally, yeah. And so they're so in their technology.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm getting blank stares when I'm trying to communicate this with people. So what we provide is value propositions, marketing positions, and message design. So basically, here's what you should talk about. Here's your primary value as your organization that was invisible to you because you were too close to it. Here's the position, and for us, position is who are you talking to? What do they need? How do you help? And when and where do they need it? So getting that defined, and then we literally give you the words. Here's what you should put on your homepage. Here's what you should say. Here's your LinkedIn post for your new launch that reinforces that position. So what we do is marketing strategy, value propositions, positioning, and copywriting. But what we talk about is just, we'll tell you what to say. You don't have to worry so much about it. We're going to give you the words so that you can express your value to the people who care about it the most. So that's what Kelford Inc. does.
That is dope. What is marketing though? In general? Because everyone is on Instagram, on social media and stuff, and they're talking about social media marketing and stuff, but the world marketing itself.
The way I like to break it down is there are kind of the three components, and they all overlap to some degree, but you have sales, which in my mind that's demonstrating value in the moment. Someone who is good at sales is making you see what you will get if you were to give them money right here and now. So that could be a salesperson in conversation, but that's also a sales page on a website. You know when you're on a sales page because it's talking about ROI.
Oh, if you get this thing, you will get this thing.
And here's how you can buy it right now. That's a sales page.
Okay.
Marketing, in my opinion, is demonstrating value at a distance. That distance might be space, that distance might be time. But the thing is, we're not selling right now. We're demonstrating our value so that over time you will get to the sales page and you will click buy. Or marketing can be in person when this could be considered marketing, and that someone listening to this, a seed might get planted in their head in 6 months from now.
I heard this thing
because we're marketing at a distance, and that distance is time. Versus sales, if I suddenly went into sales mode and I start talking to you or to an audience about this is why you should buy. Frankly, that would make everyone uncomfortable and it wouldn't work. But you would see that shift.
Right.
And then branding for me is the third element, which is demonstrating your values.
That's what I was going to ask.
Over time and space.
Because that's another one that social media is really pushing. You have to be the brand. So, I mean, I read newsletters a lot. But one of the ones was talking about how that the person is almost as big or even not bigger than the brand. And so what's like brand and branding? I mean, you kind of touched it a little bit, but
yeah, and some of this gets into like personal branding, which is a big component. And it's funny that personal branding has come back on the scene. Like I remember in like 2007, 2008, we were talking about personal branding because Twitter was brand new, and every executive and every employee needed to have their own personal brand that they would take, you know, from position to position, company to company. And we're right back there again, which I find very funny. But for me, like, yeah, from that front of people are always going to be more interesting than companies. That's just a fact of human nature. We find people the most interesting thing on the planet. Other people are more interesting to us than companies, products, services, anything like that. So personal branding is kind of a way to hack that kind of system of, yes, I represent this company, but if you're interested in me, which is way easier to get you interested in, I can kind of, you know, shift some of that branding energy towards the organization over time. That has its dangers in that, you know, that you get the issue where if I as a person, you know, say something terrible or do something bad, that then has a negative effect on the company as well. So attaching your personality in your company can be a challenge. But really, I think the best way to think about branding is thinking about, there used to be this old joke that, you know, airlines think their brand is customer service, but their actual brand is that, you know, is terrible customer service, you know. That's what people are talking about. That's the values they've demonstrated over time, is actually we don't care about that.
Right.
You know, you get on the plane and you're not thinking, they really care about the service. Like, no one's thinking that, despite what's in the app.
Yes.
So the best way to think about branding is like, how do I want to demonstrate to my customers that we share values, that we share priorities, that we're making similar trade-offs in our organization and life. So a company that has amazing branding, you know, they would be able to show at every step, we're consistent in the way that we're demonstrating our values. You go to the website, we use the right words. You interact with us at a retail location where we're doing the right things. You see an ad, and all of it is consistent. That shows that you, the customer, and us, the organization, share a set of values.
We know where we are.
And that's what I think good branding does. And you'll hear from marketers all the time that branding's not about sales. It's about just kind of spreading the message, gaining awareness. And I think that's true to the extent that you're demonstrating the value you share.
It's all about, so it kind of comes back to that value.
Which is the challenge, is figuring out what is my value? What is my value as an organization? What's my value as an individual? And what are my values?
Right.
I don't think that's easy for people to figure out.
No. Okay, I can't let you go without talking about, you know, because you've made a couple of videos about AI. And like AI has had this hockey stick growth in the last few months. And what are your thoughts on it? Like, you know, with AI, what are your thoughts on it and linking it to marketing and what you do?
Yeah, what are my thoughts on AI? Nuanced, I'll say. I came up in the marketing world when social media was brand new. I had my first, you know, job in an agency 2007, 2008. Twitter had only been around for about a year. Everyone was talking about it. Facebook, of course, had been around for a bit longer. And I was a true believer in the power of social media. Like, I did think it was going to improve the world. I thought it, you know, I did think it was going to improve marketing, and that, you know, companies would be held more to account because they had, you know, the voice of the individual and the customer. I had this kind of utopian idea about it. And over time, we've seen some of that was true. But what was less obvious were all of the negative externalities of social media. That, in fact, throwing a bunch of people who don't know each other all into the same place and saying, you know, here's a political topic, go nuts. That may cause more problems than were obvious to a lot of us at the time. So when it comes to AI, I think the downsides are more pronounced and more obvious than with social media. So I think that's worth paying attention to. The upsides are, I think, more vague and less clear. So while I find AI the most interesting thing that's happened in computing, potentially in my lifetime, I also think it will have devastating effects across every different industry and kind of part of society, just like social media did, except potentially more. But we can't ignore the upsides. How many people have their friend circle because of social media? How many different types of people have been able to get exposed to an audience, to a community, to culture because of social media? I wouldn't want to take that from them. But I would have, you know, if we could go back in time, there could have been some checks that we may have been able to put in place to maximize the upsides and minimize the downsides. I think with AI, we're in a similar situation where, like, the upsides for me, I was just talking to we were out shoveling snow this morning and with my neighbor, and we were both talking about how AI is kind of like a calculator in that it can let you do things you've never done before. Like a calculator could help you, do math that was completely outside of your skill set before. But it could also let you do what you were doing before just easier and faster, and it can make you a lot lazier.
Oh.
And I think that's kind of the risk of, if you're approaching AI from the idea of hands off, I'm easy, not only is a competitor going to completely eat your lunch, but you're going to get worse at everything you were doing. So I know I kind of was vague there a bit, but my ideas about AI are like, I think this is the most interesting thing, potentially the most interesting thing I've ever seen a computer do. And that is both extraordinarily cool and also extremely worrying.
Yeah. Okay, man, I need to have a part 2 with you, Joel.
It's like no, we can keep going forever. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts.
Okay, so I usually let guests go with this question.
Okay.
I think it's a friend asked me and it really, really touched me. So I'm like, everyone that comes to the show has to answer this. Something that happened to you before you were 17 that kind of shaped who Joel is today.
That's like so much. That could go anywhere. It's like my love of reading definitely happened then, and that has turned me into the person I am. My love of movies, video games, all of those things. But the thing that comes to mind the most is how my parents described me to other people and the stories they would tell. So I have an older brother, and when I think when you have an older brother fairly close in age, you're always compared. It's like, what's the difference between these two people is like what everyone wants to know. And my brother is like, he's the smart one. He was the one that got good grades. He was the nicer, quieter one. And I, as the younger brother, I'm the loud one. I'm the one that tried to be funny. But the way I always remember my mom describing, this is Joel, would be the same story, which was when I was 5 years old, my first day of grade school, she walked me to school, which was at the end of our street, about a 10, 15-minute walk for a small kid. Second day of school comes along and she's, okay, let's head out. And I said, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm walking you to school. And I said, I know the way. Oh! And that was their example, or my parents' example of like, that's Joel.
Right.
You show them something once.
You're like, I got it.
And I'm an independent person. I consider myself, I am an explorer by nature. I want to see the new thing. I love novelty, and I want to carve some new path wherever my most common recurring dream is discovering that just around the corner, there's something new I haven't seen before, and stumbling upon some new cool place. So the thing that happened to me is I knew my way to school.
I'm going to steal that story.
Perfect, go for it.
Okay. Last thing though.
Okay.
You've given me an amazing time, so I want to set you away with a little bit of magic.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you this, write a number between 1 and 60. Do not show
1
me.
1 and 60.
Once you're ready, point it to the camera, and these cards are going to help me find your number.
Okay, I'm not showing you, and I'm showing the cameras.
Okay. So it's going to be on at least one of these cards, but it can be more than one.
Okay.
Is your number in here?
Yes.
Okay, it's never a good one. It's in the first one. Okay. Is it here?
It's like, I swear I'm not cheating. Like, let me check. Yeah. Is it here? It is not on that card.
Okay. Here.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. Here.
No.
No. Okay. Here.
Yes.
All right. Here.
No.
Huh. Okay, so this. Okay. They're not here.
It's like, oh no, did I mess this up?
They're not in any of these ones, right?
I'm just gonna make sure without signaling too much to you what my number is. It is not
In any
on
of
those cards, no.
Okay. 38.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well done.
Yes. Joel, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
love
This
what you're
was
doing with
amazing.
Kelford, and I did say that we're going to do the CBC thing. I can't wait to have you back because I have way more questions, and yeah, definitely have to do this again.
I would love to. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.